Been a couple of months. Batteries don't sound too bad. We'll see if she fires off here. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for tuning in on today's video. That's right, we got a video on the race truck finally. It's been a long time since you guys have seen this truck on the channel. I've been getting a lot of questions about a certain subject on the race truck, so I'm going to cover that today in this video. It's going to be a lot of talking. There's going to be a lot of information, but for you, those of you that are interested in my remote oil filter and cooler setup, this is a completely DIY setup that I did. I built this myself, used parts online, and put this thing together. So if you guys are interested in that, you guys are going to want to watch this whole video because I'm going to go through the whole thing. As far as, you know, if you guys don't really care about this, you got an OEM one, it works great, and whatever, then great. Go that route. That's totally fine. That's what I run on the Tow Pig. That's what I got on my King Ranch. It's just the OEM setup. Once you change it once, generally, you are good to go. You know, as long as you do a good coolant flush, you're usually, you know, you're, like I said, you're good to go. But for some reason on this truck, I had an idea in my head. You know, I wanted this to be a really clean, you know, I wanted to be able to pop the hood and make it look really clean. So I'm able to eliminate that oil filter and that fuel filter, you know, and just, I was able to eliminate a lot of things and make this look really clean under the hood. And it's an idea that I had in my head. And spending $2 grand for a BPD kit, you know, it's a high quality kit. I didn't like where their filter was located, so there was a lot of different things in my mind, and I wanted to put it on a truck, and so I chose a race truck, and that's just how it is. So I'm gonna be going over that whole setup, so stay tuned, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. So here is the race truck for all of our new subscribers. S369 turbo. We got a stage 2 cam, high rev valve springs, billet low pressure pump, 250, 100 injectors, a full regulated return fuel system setup, a 6.7 Powerstroke fuel pump, which I will be making a video soon on how I did that. It's actually really simple, runs all half-inch lines. Mishimoto piping here, no limit cold air, that's not cold air, no limit intake. It's the biggest one you can get for them. It does have a CTS intercooler up front here. Stock transmission, and then obviously you guys saw the stack, and then we also have the coolant reservoir delete. As you can see, it's not over there, so we actually welded this piece on top of our Mishimoto radiator here, which then goes over to our overflow right there. And then of course we have custom tuning for this, as well as Fickum tuning for this truck. This truck should be electric fans. Can't forget those Flex-Lite electric fans. This truck should be right around 750 horsepower. Being that we're still on the stock transmission, it might be a little bit less. Currently, it is not making that to the ground because we do need to put a transmission in this truck. So, without further ado, guys, let's jump right into it. So the first thing you guys are going to see is this beautiful, beautiful plate right down in there. So the plate that I used is made by Bulletproof Diesel. It's awesome. It's awesome, guys. So we used their plate for our oil cooler, basically, and then it's got the screen mesh on the bottom side of it, and it just bolts right in. You do have to transfer over your low pressure oil sensor and your oil temp sensor. I think that was pretty much it. And then there's just a couple miscellaneous pieces right there that you have to basically just plug up. But you will have to form your own turbo feed line for that setup as well. But it does have 2 ports on it for oil in and oil out, which is for your actual remote oil filter and cooler setup. So that's what we're going to jump to next. So off of our BPD oil cooler block off plate, you see we have 2 massive lines that come up and over and they sneak right underneath through there, and then under our air filter, and then right up front here, and this is where we get to the magic, which is our oil filter and our oil cooler right there. Now the lines that we use, very, very important. You do not want to restrict oil flow or oil volume. You want this, you got to be as close to factory as possible. Now I did a lot of research and made sure that the way that I have this set up, we're not going to be starving the truck for oil pressure. We're not going to be too restrictive or anything like that. You really got to think this stuff out. And so all of our lines and fittings are dash 12, which comes out to about 3/4 of an inch. I recommend only using AN style lines. I used all vibrant for all my fittings and my lines. High quality stuff. Don't have to worry about it blowing apart or anything like that. We have nylon steel braided lining, which is awesome. We're not going to have to worry about any issues there. And so the first thing it does is it comes up to our oil filter. So the oil filter, the first thing you're going to have to get is a oil filter head, which must be accepting of dash 12 fittings. So if you look inside here, we actually have a Systems 1 is what it's called. You can see it right there, right in the center, and then you can see in on the right side and out on the left side. It came with two dash 12 lines on both sides of it, and then it came with the threads for it, I think, is a 1-12 or something like that. And so I had to find an oil filter that would thread onto this base that had the same thread so that it would screw right on, but also had to make sure that this oil filter was not going to be restrictive and was also going to filter enough. The micron was going to be efficient enough that we weren't going to have any sort of restrictions. So this oil filter head, I knew right off the bat because it had dash 12 lines that this oil filter head was not going to be restrictive enough. We weren't going to have any issues with that. But our oil filter is very, very important. So the factory oil filter, I believe, do not quote this, I believe is like a 12 or 15 micron. The percentage with how well it filters that down, it really isn't all that good. The filter that we got, I know for a fact though, the LF3656, it's from Fleet Guard. It's like a $50 oil filter. It's super, super expensive, but let me tell you guys, the oil after 5,000 miles still looks new. It's incredible what this oil filter has been able to do. So it does have a built-in bypass, so if it does get to the point where it's so clogged, it will bypass the oil through the filter. So that's really awesome. I'm happy about that, which we're not going to have the truck to that point where it's going to be so clogged, because we're going to be doing this every season. We're going to be changing the oil in this truck. So I don't think we're going to have any issues there. The micron rating on this filter is absolutely insane though. I believe it was 6 microns at 99% efficiency. So it can filter more effectively and at a lower micron than the factory oil filter. So I was super happy to see that. And then finally, the flow rating was insane. I can't remember exactly what the factory specs are for the flow rating, but I'm pretty sure when I was doing my research that this filter, the LF3656, basically doubled the flow rating. So it can handle as much oil that we can push through that filter. And it's going to filter it amazingly, and it's going to flow awesome numbers. So we're not going to have any issues. So yes, it is a $50 filter, and eventually they might not even make this filter, and I might have to find another option. But until then, that's the filter we're going to be running, because I got a lot of faith in that filter. So from our oil filter head, we go into our Fluidyne oil cooler, air to oil cooler. Again, both had dash 12 fittings at the top and at the bottom. The bracketry I used, it's 2 aluminum brackets, one at the top, one at the bottom, with 2 plates on the side there. I basically just cut the center support right here, and then measured this out, and then installed it all the way on both sides, all the way across. Then we just bolted right to it. Haven't had any issues with that. Everything seems to be pretty solid. I've gone down the track at over 100 miles an hour with this setup and never had a problem. So been pretty pleased with it. So yeah, our Fluidyne, again, did a lot of research on this cooler. It's gonna flow amazingly. We're not gonna have any sort of restrictions here. So from our oil cooler, we go all the way back around. We follow that same line. I found it to be the cleanest. And we go right back into our oil cooler plate. And that ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much it for our oil cooler setup. So I know what you guys are probably wondering is, where did I find all my fittings? You know, what are the part numbers for the oil filter head and the oil cooler and stuff? Guys, I made this kit like 2 years ago. It has worked amazingly. I can't really sell this as a kit online or anything like that. I don't plan on giving out part numbers. I'd have to go back through and find all of these part numbers again. The filter is probably the easiest one, the LF3656. You got to do your research. You got to figure out what you want. And you gotta be able to find the fittings and make sure you know what you're doing, because, like, for example, the oil cooler plate, the two -12 fittings that come up out of that, because of the intake manifold, they got to be at a slight angle, so it's going to come up and then out like that. And so on top of that, at the plate is a ORB, which is O-ring boss fitting. So when you screw it in, that fitting has to have an O-ring on it, and then it's going to have a jam nut that comes down on top of it, but then it's going to come out to -12 AN style line. So yeah, you're going to have to do your research. You're going to have to find this stuff. One of the biggest questions that I get about this setup is, would I do it again, and would I make any changes to it? If I were to do this again, which I probably wouldn't. You know, this was a lot of work. It still cost me like $1,200 to $1,500, and that was on my time. So it was really expensive to still be able to do this. It took a lot of time, a lot of research. My oil filter's stupid expensive. It's great for this type of platform, I think, but I would not put it on a daily driver. I would not put it on a street truck or anything like that, because let me tell you guys, the OEM setup, it does work really well. Once you replace it once, do a really good coolant flush, you guys are golden. You're not going to have any problems. You got to make sure that you replace it, do a good coolant flush, and you guys are going to be set. So for the amount of work and time and energy to make this, and yeah, it does look really clean and stuff, but it's a lot of work, and I would not recommend doing it again. But if you guys have done your own cooler setup, or you're in the process of doing it, or you guys want to still do it no matter what I say, one thing I would recommend, if you guys live in the north where we see temperatures below 30 degrees, I would definitely recommend trying to incorporate Bulletproof Diesel's thermostat into your setup, because oil temps take forever to get up in this truck. I literally have to let it just sit out there and idle. On a warm day like today, like we had it idling out there for probably 20 minutes. Oil temp was 146. That's it. So this setup works stupid efficient. Usually I only see about 160 oil temp driving this thing around, and yeah, of course coolant temp stays at 190. And if the truck does sit like at a stoplight for an extended period of time, it might creep up a little bit, but that's why we do have the electric fans. I have considered about putting a electric fan on our oil cooler up front here, just so we can get more direct airflow on that. Because at the track, you go down the track and then you're idling back, there's not really a whole lot of air moving across that oil cooler, so it does have a tendency to kind of climb up at the track. So, but yeah, guys, hopefully we got the 4R in the bed. We might try to put another different 5R in this thing, just so we can drive this thing around. Fiberglass front bumper. Of course, we got the DGM kit. We're lowered 5 inches in the back, 3 inches up front here. This thing is sweet. But thank you guys for tuning in on today's video. A lot of talking, I know, but hopefully I gave you guys some insight, answered a lot of questions regarding my oil cooler and filter setup. If you still have questions, leave them in this video. Drop a comment. I'll try to answer them. If you guys are interested in seeing that 6.7 fuel pump, how I did that, plug and play system, works really well, let me know. Drop that down in the comments. Otherwise, like, subscribe if you're new. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.